Welcome back to the Stephen Knight Show. I want to remind you, if you just tuned into us for the first time, you can also hear us on our audio, our podcast at thestephennightshow.com. We're on Google Play, Apple Music, anywhere pretty much. But this is our video. It's our fourth time doing the video segment. We have a pretty heavy show tonight because of everything that's going on in our country. Just when we thought we were dealing with the coronavirus, now we're dealing with these protests and these riots and the looting. And so we have a special guest on tonight. She was here before. Attorney Melanie Davis joins us to discuss everything from a legal aspect. But before we get into that, Ms. Parker, how was your weekend?
An emotionally draining weekend for myself, and I think almost all of us, as we watched everything unfold, from dealing with coronavirus to dealing with the lifetime, 400 plus years virus of racism. So it's been pretty heavy and pretty emotional times for, I think, all of us. So I want to acknowledge everyone's feelings on this call.
Most definitely, most definitely. What about you, Chike?
Honestly, I don't even really have the words. It's just been insane. It's been draining, heartbreaking, eye-opening, and especially here because, I'm close to Philadelphia, and I had to come into the city yesterday to prep for work, and just you're watching the news and you see everything, but until you actually see it, it doesn't really hit. And because I live 20 minutes outside of the city, I'm away from everything. And I had to come into the city, and then that's when I saw everything. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, yeah. Nair, how you doing?
I feel like I'm doing okay. So much so I questioned myself on that. So I actually did a check-in with my therapist, who is a friend that she's been practicing for a while. I've known her for many years. You know her actually too. Dr. Copeland, Patrice Copeland.
Yeah.
I did my check-in with her because I wasn't sure how I was. I'm not sure. I feel like I'm okay, but it took some escalation for me to even decide to check in. But I think I'm okay, and she says I'm okay. But we'll see how things come in the days ahead, I guess.
Most definitely. I think I always say everything happens for a reason, and some things we can't explain. So I'm not taking anything for granted. But I had decided a couple weeks ago to reach out to my therapist just because I know it's her job, and she gets paid and I hadn't talked to her in a month, which is not unusual, but I wanted to make sure she's getting paid during this pandemic we're going through. And so I reached out to her, and she only had an availability for the next day, but I was actually doing an interview for the Stephen Knight Show at that time, so I couldn't do it. But we're actually doing it on Wednesday. And this is perfect timing because, I'm not a big crier, but I can tell you on Friday, I broke down. I've been having a lot of conversations on Facebook with people that don't always see eye to eye with me, and they're from a different race, so I can understand why they don't, because that's not their experience. And so a lot's happened, I think, and we'll talk about it, obviously, in the show, but yeah, I mean, I'm fine overall. Don't get me wrong, but it's just this is a time in history. I think that we've hit something that's, like Ms. Parker said, has been boiling for 400 years, at least 400 years. So we'll talk more about that. Well, our question of the day, briefly, is, without going into too much detail, what are your thoughts on the protest overall, Ms. Parker?
I think it's a good thing. I think, white Americans have never gained any traction in this country in any way of a peaceful manner. They're quick to quote Dr. King, yet they murdered him. They got him out of the way by murdering him. So the fact that we're being made to feel guilty that this revolution is happening, and it may not be happening the way they want it to happen, or the way they see fit. We're always being placed in the position to make decisions that are peaceful and good for all, right? Yet they've never made a decision that considered us or was good for Black Americans in this country. So I'm with the protesters. I say whatever needs to happen, let it happen. Like I said, they've never gained any traction in anything that they wanted peacefully. When they do it, it's okay. when we do it, it's rioting and it's destroying our community. We don't own those buildings. We don't own the cities that these protests are going in, majority of the businesses that are going on. And when they destroy, Boston, when the Celtics loses or win, no one gets on TV and say, well, they're destroying their own community. No one's ever says that. And that's just over sports. So I am 100% with the protesters. I'm working with some attorney friends of mine here to somehow assist in billing out as many protesters as we can throughout this entire time, not just over the weekend, but any protests that may come up in different cities around Atlanta. They're big in representing some of the victims of recent situations. So getting some information around that, and if I can share that with everyone, I definitely will. But I stand fully in support of them. I think there is something that we all can do. We all have our voices in one way or another. I was ready to go down there on Friday. Couldn't, once I found out about it, was too late, couldn't get down there. And then, Mike was telling me that it may not be a good idea. But there's different ways that we can all make an impact, that we can all show support. So however you can make your voice heard, I think that it was important that you do something. If it's coming up with ways to support the protesters, if you believe in what they're doing, do so. Find a way to show that, you may not agree with every single thing that's happening, but I've never heard a white person get on TV when they were protesting or doing whatever they wanted to for, whatever rights they were going for at the moment. Never heard somebody get on TV and spoke against those people. They may have had opinions that was different from what, the message was, but they were still in support of the total action and what they wanted out of the action. So I think it's important during these times that, we may feel a little different about it, but think about it, all of the peaceful protests that we've had for, hundreds of years have never really brought anything. Dr. King was murdered before the initiative that he was trying to get passed happened 6 days after he died, because they were rioting all over the country. And so, there's nobody can tell me anything about nonviolence, especially not any white person, because there's never been any nonviolence when they wanted to achieve something.
Yeah. Chike, what are your thoughts about the protests?
I am behind the protesters. I support the protest. I'm just not with the looting and the vandalism and all that other crap that's coming along with it. And it's been reported in other cities that most of the vandalism and the looting is not us. It comes from another organization or other organizations, making it look like it's us. And what I'm experiencing here in Philadelphia is people that are doing things probably out of a trend or what they believe is what everyone else is doing. And I'm going to attest it to a lack of education and the lack of being woke and understanding what's really going on. And you, just for example, you have your local market where you buy all your stuff from, and we're still in the middle of a pandemic, and some food is scarce and you need to go to your local market. Well, you just tore and burned your local market up. You just tore it up. So now where are you going to go for your goods? Because you just obliterated it. For what? That's not protesting. That's self-sabotaging. So, that's where I'm at with it.
Okay. What about you, Nair?
I'm probably the only one who doesn't have a good answer. I'm excited about it. I don't know what's, you hate to ask that question, what's next? I've heard a lot of people say, what's the plan? I've got responses for those as well. But just in general, without even digging deep into my intellect, I'm excited about this energy of getting some attention. I'm excited about it. Of course, I don't want anyone getting hurt. Of course, I don't want anyone going to jail. Of course, I don't want, many of the things that normal people don't want. I'm not a sociopath to where I don't accept, things that are bad. I take full responsibility and accountability that comes along with being excited for the protests and the whichever direction they turn. But I do believe in them. I also agree with Chike to an extent where he says, you ruined, you tore down your market. Now where you go? I don't think that, I get that thinking, but I think there is a higher calling to all of this. So people they're not thinking that way, I don't think that's usually how any protest or plan goes. It just kind of turns that way. I don't think they set out to do that. But to answer your question again, without going too deep, I'm excited about this energy, and I just want to see things work out somehow for the good for us. I want to be a part of that, however I can be. And I've been doing things too, but I haven't been out on the front lines anywhere. I'm in Cleveland Heights, Ohio right now, and I haven't started any protests out here, and I haven't come across any out here personally.
Yeah. The way I feel about it, I think that it's actually a good thing. I hate to see families lose family businesses that they've had for 30 years. I hate to see that, but I think that, as you said, Nair, the cause is a lot bigger than that. We've been peacefully protesting for years, decades. And where has it gotten us? Anytime we can look on video and see someone murdered by a police officer and be exonerated, why does that still happen in 2020? And so peaceful protesting hasn't worked, and we had to get the attention by destroying things. And I hate to say it that way, but that's what they had to do. It had to be a major change, a major reaction to show that we are sick of this. And the thing is, it's not well reported, but there are Black, white, Asian, Mexican, they're all out there. There are police officers that are kneeling in solidarity with the protesters. This thing has gone global. They have people in Germany and Milan and the UK. And South Africa. There's an issue, and people are seeing it. And I hope that the looting stops. I hope that the destruction stops. I think we got the attention. We got the point. But there has to be a change. It cannot continue this way, because that could be any one of us. Running down, jogging, you get murdered. I just saw a video, Ms. Parker, I know you shared it as well, or commented on it, where a young couple who didn't even know about the curfew, tased in their car. They weren't doing nothing. And the young man that was driving had his hands on the steering wheel. They still tased him. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I saw a video, people share a lot of stuff to the Stephen Knight show. There was a man that was standing in his front lawn with his hands behind his back. The police officers, two white police officers, run up on him. One tases him, but that didn't work, so he kicked him in the back. So he turns around, the other one tackles him. He was surrendering. Why are we treated like animals? Why are we treated like animals? And I think, this is a call to the world. This is not going to happen anymore. It can no longer happen this way. And so, I hate that it had to happen this way, but it needed to happen this way. Mm-hmm. It needed to happen.
I'm going to add this. I think that we have more in common with poor whites, like Dr. King said, than they have in common with the rich whites.
Yeah.
And the sooner they're able to see that, the sooner I think that we will have more allies in our fight for freedom. It's what they don't understand is that they're seen just like we are seen, less than. But because of their whiteness, they have this false sense of being superior. But they're living in Trailer Park. Most of the people that voted for Trump were people who weren't, of course he had the middle class and his New York friends and all those people, but a large population that voted for him were people who were poor, people who are poor, people who had never voted before in the country, what would be considered rednecks that voted for him. So I think it's about education. It's about educating themselves. It's about changing their hearts. But I think at the very core of what America is racism. I think that's its default mode. When nothing else worked, we go back to being racist to Black Americans, you know? And that can no longer be. We can no longer default mode, and the whole entire system will have to change. In order for that to happen, there will be some destruction. If anything happens to me, I'm gonna go ahead and say this on camera. Anything happens to me, burn this down, okay? No protesting, nothing peaceful, burn it to the ground.
Yeah. Well, let's take a quick break. We come back. We have attorney Melanie Davis to join us to discuss everything from a legal standpoint. Right back after this.